We start with Donald Trump vulgarities. David Corns, the Washington bureau chief for Mother Jones. This is MSNBC political analyst. And Bob Shrum. Shrummy's here, and he's a Democratic strategist. Shrum, I am really stunned by this, I have to tell you, because after Wednesday, I thought there'd be some sort of come to Jesus or something moment for Donald Trump. He bet all his money on the idea that the president had a problem with his birth certificate. The president showed him crystal clear he had no problem. And then Trump went off on this thing. Let's watch and then you react to this. Here he was last night in Vegas. It happened in Vegas. It didn't stay there. Let's listen.
They want to go in and raise the price of oil because we have nobody in Washington that sits back and said, you're not going to raise that price. You understand me? We build another school. We build another road. They blow them up. We build again. In the meantime, we can't get a school built in Brooklyn. It's unbelievable. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you mother, we're going to tax you 25%. Now,
well, you know, you're a speechwriter for all those years, Bobby. You know how a speech is written. This isn't when a guy accidentally uses a bad word. I've done it by accident. When you're talking, you think you're being colloquial and you make a mistake and use a word you shouldn't. Here's a speech that was crafted with the F word in it for a particular effect in a Vegas Republican audience. What is Donald Trump trying to do with this kind of rhetoric?
Well, first of all, it says something about the Family Values Party that he was getting all the applause while that was going on. Secondly, I think
the Sharon Angle party actually out there.
Yeah,
this is the crowd that gave you Sharon Angle.
Well, except the possibility is the Sharon Angle party, if they take over the primaries, might nominate someone like Donald Trump, who makes Sarah Palin look like a serious figure. Look, we know two things about Trump. One, he's not going to be elected president of the United States ever. In the Gallup USA Today poll, 63% of people say they wouldn't vote for him, period. Number two, he's running near the top of the pack in the Republican field right now. If the Republican Party would do that, they would replicate 1964, except Barry Goldwater was a serious figure. Okay. He was just wrong. And I think they'd go down to crashing defeat. Bob, I have to ask you this. As a craftsman, as well as a thoughtful person, you know how to craft a speech. Why would he use the F word in a speech to an audience on purpose? What exactly is he bottom-feeding here? Is he going for the most ugly, angry people who love grossness because they're feeling gross? What's it about? This is a turn of events here last night. I think he's a version of Howard Beale in Network. I also think this guy is a billionaire, not just in dollars, but in arrogance. And it's possible that he wrote it in or had it written in for him. It's also possible that this guy thinks he can just stand up and talk and say whatever he wants. But intentionally, using it once could have been a mistake. Using it over and over and over again, he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's trying to come up with a 21st century equivalent of I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. I think you're right. This is viral now. Obviously, it isn't just staying in Vegas. Sure. To use language like that will turn up. I think Bob's right, except that not putting sarcasm aside, I think the Christian right will be turned off by this. I think certain elements on the right will be turned off. That crowd obviously ate it up. I don't think all the Republicans in that audience, by the way, like what they heard today, my guess.
It's not insignificant that this happened in Vegas. Donald Trump just lost a big bet this week, the biggest bet he's made in a while. And what do gamblers often do when they lose a big bet? They double down, they go in for more, they find another big bet. But the thing is, too, we can focus on the rhetoric and the F-bombs, but there's something else here. He's a phony. In 2008, he gave an interview up in New York to New York One, in which he said, we need to have a reasonable dialogue with our enemies abroad in other states, and he was sort of comparing himself to George Bush. Bush did it wrong. We need to talk reasonably to people. Right. Now, 3 years later, what is he saying? I'm the guy out there who can take off their effing backsides, and it's completely different. This guy will say anything.
I don't know whether Fox has dropped him or not. Let's say here's the reaction on Fox News today. Let's listen.
Yes, that is a man who wants to be president of the United States. Perhaps. He may be toying with us. We don't know. But has Trump, once and for all, jumped the shark with this speech? Here with today's political power play, Chris Stirewalt, Fox News digital politics editor. You seem to think he has, Chris.
Well, look, John, I mean, it's a rough week for Mr. Trump in terms of his credibility, which has been, shall we say, strained to begin with.
You know, I have a thought here, and that's that Roger Ailes has a lot of influence on what goes on in Fox. Just a thought. Yes. And Bob Shrum, you know he's smart. He's angry sometimes against the liberal establishment, but he's smart. He must know that this is really stinking up the right. This Trump performance lately, this focusing on ethnicity, saying the president's out there playing basketball. This isn't even code anymore about the game he's been playing. Saying he couldn't have possibly gotten into quality schools because, let's face it, he's black. That game that he's been playing out there. Ailes must know you can't go this far. What do you think, Bob? Do you think we just saw him, I think, skunked by his own network over there? They're dumping on the chance of this guy being serious. That's what I heard.
Well, I think Ailes is very shrewd. I think he understands that Trump not only hurts the right, but that every single Republican strategist, except those that Trump put on his payroll, doesn't want this guy anywhere near the Republican nomination for president. Because if he gets it, they'll go down to crashing defeat.
I think the longer he continues out, I know you're a man of progressive beliefs, but let's analyze this. Do you think do you think guys like Roger Ailes want him to be out there? Do you think the smart people on the right, the Bill Cristols, do you think they think that is a good image?
Of course not. It is. This is the sort of the caricature of the Republican Party, of the party of celebrity billionaires who don't care about other people, and it shows they're not serious.
I mean, let's face it.
Listen, I do think though that in the long run, this might help someone like Mitt Romney, who sort of will rise out of the ashes.
I refuse to challenge the president on the fact he can only play basketball. He can't get into Ivy League schools. I refuse to challenge him anymore about not being able to write a good book because he's obviously not literate enough to do it. I will not play that dirty game. He could come out here and look like a hero to a lot of Americans.
You mean Mitt Romney? Yes.
Yeah, why doesn't Romney come out? Here's a perfect opportunity.
I think he will.
When's he going to do it?
I think him and Pawlenty, anybody, Mitch Daniels, will look like a piece of gold.
Listen closely. Can you hear them doing it now?
No, not yet.
Trump, can you hear any Republican coming out and say, this guy's doesn't got our values are equal opportunity for everybody in this country. Our values are everybody gets a break in this country, and we're not prejudiced against anybody. We don't assume a guy can't write. We don't assume a guy can't pass an SAT or a law board score. We don't assume anything about a person because we're colorblind. The way Trump's been playing this he's anything but colorblind.
Yeah, look, he's just seizing onto every demagogic issue he can. I think people like Romney, Mitch McConnell, and Boehner, who've given sort of semi-evasive answers on this birther question, I take the president at his word, are in terror at the Republican right. They look at what happened in the primaries last year. Right. They look at nominating someone like Christine O'Donnell in Delaware, and they're scared. I want to say one other thing. The first time I ever heard... What? Well, they are scared of this, but... Well, they're scared of this, but they also have to deal with this pressure on the right and with the fear that they have that they're going to knock themselves out of contention for the nomination because they're going to anger the extremists in the Republican Party.
Let's watch some more of this. I'm sorry, guys. Let's watch some more of this tonight. We only have a chance here. Here's Trump on Iraq making your point. This isn't normal talk. Let's listen.
You know, in the old days, I'm like an old-fashioned warrior. The old days, when you had a war and you won the war, it was yours. When we have a war, it's amazing. When we have a war, we go in, we lose thousands of lives, tens of thousands wounded, spend $1.5 trillion, and then you know what we do? We leave. Nothing. What did we do this for? So I said, we go in, we take the oil.
You know, that is rotten. That's like we liberated Paris in Europe so we could grab Paris. We should own Germany. We should own every country we've ever liberated. We're the good guys, damn it. I do not understand how he can sell this argument to an audience and have them say, we ought to be, we ought to be troglodytes. We ought to be colonialists and grab all the oil. Who would applaud that?
This is ugly Americanism. Yeah. You know, that's what it is. And what he's doing here, and this is what Bob was talking about a moment ago, too. He is trying to capitalize on whatever anger he senses is out there. With the birtherism, it was just general anger at Obama for being different and was racist, whatever. That fell through. So now he's looking for another source of anger to tap. He doesn't care about whether he's right or wrong on the policy matter. He doesn't care if this is consistent with his own history. This is about ratings. He is trying to find a market for the Donald Trump reality show.
Essentially, I think this is bottom feeding below the Rupert Murdoch level. Bob, this is going down to way subterranean, submarine levels. You got to really be down the ocean to try to get the kind of people that want to hear this kind of stuff?
Look, the guy
Trump
is obviously willing to say anything. He has a delusion that he can be president of the United States, which he can't be. I guess he's bored with his buildings, but I'll tell you what he's doing. He's polluting his brand. If I lived in one of those buildings right now, in a co-op or a condo, I'd push the condo board to take his name off the building. Who wants to live in a building named for somebody everyone's laughing at?
Well, let's take a look at this. I think a lot of African Americans, by the way, are not laughing at this anymore. A lot of people here, this isn't even code. This is English he's speaking. Here's Trump on his decision. Let's listen to this.
I'm going to make a decision fairly soon. And I would rather, I love my life. Phil can tell you. I'm having a great time. I built a great company. I have a television show that's one of the top shows. It's the top show on NBC. It's the #1 show on NBC. It's doing great. Even the New York Times the other day wrote a nice little piece about it, talking about how great the ratings were. It won the evening. It wins the 10 o'clock hour for the whole week. It's a great show. I mean, I have to give a lot of stuff up.
Well, do you think, Bob Shrum, do you think he won't run because it requires shaking hands? He won't shake hands with people. I'm dead serious now. Will that be enough of an excuse for him not to run? I think he needs an excuse to get out of this thing. Is that his exit strategy? I don't want to touch anybody.
Germs.
But he
I'm serious, Bob. He won't talk. He won't touch people.
Yeah. But I know, but he's apparently done it out on the trail now. And, he'll just use a lot of that goo you put on your hands and you wipe it, and supposedly it takes the germs away. But what it won't take away, and you just said something very important, Chris, it's not just that the guy is a laughingstock. It's that what he's saying is despicable. What I wanted to say earlier was that the first time I ever heard about Barack Obama, years and years and years ago, was from one of the great constitutional scholars of our time, Larry Tribe, who teaches at Harvard Law School, who told me, I have the most amazing student who is so smart that it's unbelievable. And he then went on to write a piece with Larry in the Harvard Law Review that, frankly, it's so elevated it's tough to read, called The Curvature of Constitutional Space. Donald Trump, I'm sure, couldn't get through it. So, all of this is a code word for racism. All of it is a code word for anger. And I wish the guy would go away.
Well, I can't beat that. David Corn, thank you, Bob Shrum. Coming up.
Thank you.